We keep shaming men for their desires, and it's not working. There's something we need to talk about that might upset some people, that might get some people to violently disagree with me, but this has to be said. It is something that's happening all around, it's the cause of lots of problems, and we tend to just sweep this under the rug. So if you start feeling upset as I start explaining this, bear with me, because this will make sense once you see the big picture. Remember that infamous Gillette ad from a few years ago that managed to piss everyone off? There's this one scene that really encapsulates a problem that men have been facing for a long time.
To act the right way.
Bro, not cool.
The message here is really clear. As a man, if you feel attraction towards someone, if you feel desire, and you think, I'm gonna express that, I'm gonna do something about it, that's bad. You should not do that. And the truth is that boys and men grow up with a lot of this kind of messaging. We hear all kinds of stuff about, all men are pigs, all men only want one thing. We hear stories about these bad, evil men who cheat on these poor, innocent women because they're just so selfish and they can't keep it in their pants. And of course, a recent favorite, even briefly glancing in the direction of a female who's working out in the gym, is creepy and gross and will get you highlighted in a viral TikTok. And of course, it doesn't matter how little the woman in question was wearing or how brief the glance in her direction was. The message is always the same, ranging from religiously based shaming to romance drama in media, movies, shows, etc. to viral TikTok moments. As a guy, you experience a seemingly endless stream of people wagging their finger at you because you have a pulse and you have a sex drive. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yes, some of these things are exaggerated, right? The TikTok thing is going too far, but in principle, this is a real problem. In fact, as a woman, you're almost guaranteed to have experienced this many times over. You have seen the creepy side of the unwanted sexual advances of some guy. You have been made to feel unsafe by some guy's sexual advances towards you. You've probably been cheated on as well. You have plenty of experience with the negative side, the painful side of what can happen, and it seems to be because of the damn sexual desires that these guys can't control. And that is absolutely true, but there's one huge problem that we always overlook, and it's simply this. The group of men who are most likely to perpetrate this kind of unwanted, uncontrolled, creepy, or even aggressive sexual advance has very little overlap or maybe even completely separate from the group of men who are most affected by all of this messaging. Lots of guys, in fact, most guys, have never done and will never do something like this. The majority of guys have never been sexually creepy or even aggressive, and yet they are still all getting the full dose of sexual shaming. In fact, the guys who are the most sensitive guys, the most worried about this kind of thing, are the ones who least need to hear this message. And on the flip side, the small minority of guys who are actually out there being creepy are the ones who are least likely to hear or be affected by the messaging about it. The bottom line is that there's a lot of cultural shaming of men's sexual desires, and it's hitting all the wrong targets. And the problem doesn't end there. Because, well, your sex drive is one of the most fundamental, one of the most deeply rooted primal drives in the human body. You can shame it all you want, it's not gonna go away. And so one of the consequences of all this shaming is that it can drive men towards porn. There's a huge contrast between the world in general, who keeps telling you no when it comes to your sexual desires, and then the world of porn, where everyone's meeting you with open arms and open legs and eager smiles, where the answer is always yes. It can feel like porn is the one place where every one of your desires is accepted and welcomed, and where you can have as much of it as you want, whenever you want. Unfortunately, porn is highly addictive, so what starts out as a habit can become a full-blown addiction, and the addiction has consequences on the brain and the biology of the user that can actually create more of the problem that started this whole thing to begin with. Porn addiction, as it progresses, tends to make the user over-sexualize things and become obsessed with sex. So they end up seeing things as sexual more than before. They end up thinking about and fantasizing about sex more than they did before. Porn use is also socially isolating. For obvious reasons, it happens in the privacy of hidden away in some room somewhere in front of a screen alone. But it also means that guys are redirecting all of their desires towards what's happening on that screen, which means that they're not out in the real world practicing social interactions, which means that they have less of a chance to actually get comfortable with the dating game, which means that they're less socially calibrated, more likely to be awkward, more likely to be kind of creepy. And porn addiction can also lead to the buildup of resentment and even feelings of aggression towards the opposite gender. And listen, the current, often very adversarial debate about men and women and relationships is not helping. So all of this means that you could end up with someone who started out as a normal, kind of sensitive guy who got shamed into hiding and trying to suppress his sexual desire, redirected that towards porn, and through porn addiction becomes a sex-obsessed, socially poorly calibrated creep who now goes out to do the stuff that the shaming was supposed to prevent in the first place. This is why I said it's not working, not for anyone. So okay, if that's the problem, what do we do about it? The first thing, and the reason I made this video, is just awareness. I hope you can see that the world you live in, the culture you grew up in, is creating this problem and making it worse. And I hope you can see that sexual shaming is not the solution. So one thing you can do if you're a perpetrator of sexual shaming is, well, stop doing that. Start changing the conversation. But most people who are watching this video are guys who are very familiar with the problem I described. You have experienced that sexual shaming and you have become addicted to porn. And maybe this is the first time you realize that, yes, you are addicted, and it's the first time you realize the connection between the sexual shaming you experienced and this addiction. But what do you do about it? Of course, it would be nice if we could all live in a world where men are not shamed for their natural sexual desires and where women don't have to experience unwanted, poorly calibrated advances from men. But we can't sit around and wait for the world to change. What you can do is acknowledge the situation that you're in, and you can take ownership of your own growth and your own healing. You can understand that the sexual shame that you've experienced, perhaps even from a very young age, is part of the reason you've become addicted to porn. And you can understand that this shame needs to be resolved. So if you continuously shame yourself, you generate more feelings of shame because you're addicted to porn and so on, that's not going to help either. And what you can do instead is use tools like introspective writing in order to start unpacking what's going on and start resolving these issues. And if you want to learn more about that, check the link in the description. You can join my Discord community and there's a free introspective writing course in there. And of course, I also recommend that you do the work to overcome your porn addiction, that you unhook your brain from this unhealthy habit and start learning to express and experience sexuality and sexual desire in the real world in a healthy, safe, and well-calibrated way instead. If you're new here and you're ready to start your journey of overcoming porn addiction and using that as a springboard to improve yourself and improve your life, make sure you subscribe to this channel and check out my other content. And also, if this is something you resonate with and you want to be able to talk to other people, get accountability and advice from other people who understand where you're coming from, again, check that link in the description. You can join the Quit by Healing Discord community and it's completely free. So I hope to see you there. And if you have any questions or input about this, feel free to leave a comment.